I'll summarize what happens because it sets the stage for uh, the message on today. 2 Samuel chapter 13. So when 2 Samuel 13 opens up, there's an event that happens that simultaneously offends our senses as good, civilized human beings. It offends our senses in one end, but if you read it, it baffles our modern psyche. One brother looks at his half sister and decides he wants his half sister. To us today, unless you're in certain locales, that does not make sense to us, how that could be a thing. And he ends up forcing himself and violating her, which to us is a wrong and has been a wrong throughout society. But the other part that when you read over it wasn't that he was so far off, because Tamar wasn't against it. She just said, you got to ask permission. The part was how he treated her after. Things could have been better. That's what brought the issues on, is because their father, the greatest king of Israel to this day, still, King David, did not punish Amnon like her brother Absalom thought he should have. And so Absalom got a little upset. And in all of this, if we were to look back one more verse to 2 Samuel chapter 12, we can understand, if you're a parent, you can understand how tough a situation David is in, where his son has done something wrong to his daughter, and people are calling for his son to be slain and to be killed. One of his other sons is calling for him to do something very drastic to his son. And as a parent, I can imagine if you've got two children fighting like this, what it's like. Amen. And so I said this to somebody this week. I've said it the last few weeks, and I'll say it again. God does not get involved in our politics. You can't put him there. You can't try to use him for that. God does not care whether you are a Republican or Democrat. He does not care whether you like Trump or don't like Trump. He does not care whether you believe COVID is real or false. He really does not care, because both people, all people, are his children, and he wants to have a relationship with everybody. Amen? And so here we have a father sitting here trying to figure out what to do in the middle of all this. But if we were to step back, and he doesn't seem to be as decisive as we would like him to be. But if we were to go back to 2 Samuel chapter 12, you all know the story. In 2 Samuel chapter 12 is when he had sent Uriah to the front lines, and God had taken his child from him that Bathsheba had, and so he was still dealing with the death of a child. And if you've never dealt with losing a child, it takes a minute. It doesn't take 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. It takes a minute to deal with. And so in the middle of all this, now we've got a son acting up and doing things he shouldn't have done to a daughter, and then we've got another son that wants him dealt with. And in the middle of all that, Absalom decides to take matters into his own hands. He got Amnon. He tried to kill all the rest of them. He tried to kill every one of his brothers and half-brothers. But he only got one, the one he really wanted. And so now the king is having to deal with all this. I'll tell you about 3 people in this message. We're going to talk about Absalom, which we've already started, Ahithophel, and the wise woman of Tekoa. In this message, the weeds, part 2. So you remember last time I was here, I told you about how insidious weeds are because they dig in the ground and they have these long stems. And what they do is they push the grass roots up so that the grass can't grow and it can't get nutrients. And then they cover the grass in this wide umbrella so that the grass can't get sunlight and get nutrients from the sunlight. So the grass just slowly dies and chokes to death. And if you will take the work then and to pull the weeds out, then the weeds, by pulling them out, will give more fertile ground because of the way that it pulls the ground up. But here, if you're not careful, the weeds are here in Absalom, and they are very, very deep seated because of something that he got upset about. This week I was pulling some more weeds, and I was down there, and I really do try to get after this. They're everywhere. And there's one very specific one that is so hard, Elder Grundy, to get rid of because the bulbs are all along the stem. So I can pull at it, and I've learned what it looks like from the top. It's got this little white flower. And so I can pull at that white flower, and the rest of the stem comes along, and the seeds are all along that stem, and they fall off so easy that you have to be